Ethel Kennedy, a renowned human rights advocate and widow of Senator Robert F. Kennedy, passed away on Thursday at the age of 96. Her death marks the end of an era for a family that has long been at the heart of American politics and public life. The news of her passing was confirmed by her grandson, Joseph Kennedy II, who posted a heartfelt message on social media. "It is with our hearts full of love that we announce the passing of our amazing grandmother, Ethel Kennedy. She died this morning from complications related to a stroke suffered last week," Joseph Kennedy shared in a post on X, formerly known as Twitter. Ethel's life was defined by both triumphs and tragedies, many of which she faced with remarkable grace and resilience. As the matriarch of one of America's most influential political dynasties, she endured more than her fair share of heartbreak. Perhaps the most devastating blow came in 1968 when her husband, Robert F. Kennedy, was assassinated while running for president. Ethel, who was pregnant with their 11th child at the time, was by his side when he was shot in the kitchen pantry of the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. The image of her kneeling beside her mortally wounded husband is one that left a profound mark on the nation and would shape the rest of her life. Her husband's assassination was not the only tragedy Ethel would face. 2 of her 11 children also met untimely deaths. David Kennedy, her 4th son, died of a drug overdose in 1984 at the age of 28. A troubled young man, David struggled with addiction, a battle that many believe began after witnessing his father's assassination as a child. In 1997, another tragedy struck when Michael Kennedy, the family's 6th child, died in a skiing accident at the age of 39. Despite these devastating losses, Ethel remained a pillar of strength for her family, continuing to uphold the legacy of public service that the Kennedys were known for. A devout Catholic, Ethel sought solace and strength in her faith. Her religious convictions were deeply rooted, and she often credited her faith with helping her endure the many hardships she faced throughout her life. After Robert's death, she dedicated much of her energy to carrying on his work. In 1968, she founded the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Center, an organization dedicated to advancing the causes of social justice and human rights that her husband had championed. Under her leadership, the center became a powerful voice for the oppressed, tackling issues such as racial discrimination, poverty, and political persecution worldwide. Her activism was not just limited to the United States. Ethel Kennedy's human rights work took her to some of the world's most troubled regions, from advocating for peace in Northern Ireland to addressing the apartheid regime in South Africa. She consistently used her platform to speak out against injustice and support those who were silenced by oppression. Her relentless pursuit of justice earned her the admiration of many, and she became a symbol of resilience and moral courage. Ethel was also the mother of former independent presidential candidate and controversial anti-vaccine advocate Robert F. Kennedy, Jr. Despite their close relationship, Robert Jr.'s political views and public stances on vaccines created significant rifts within the Kennedy family. Like many Kennedy family members, Ethel had long been a staunch supporter of the Democratic Party. However, in recent years, Robert Jr. distanced himself from the Democratic establishment, eventually endorsing former President Donald Trump. This marked a significant departure from the Kennedy family's political tradition, and while Ethel remained publicly silent on the matter, it was clear that Robert Jr.'s views were at odds with the values she had championed throughout her life. Born Ethel Skakel on April 11, 1928, in Chicago, Illinois, Ethel was raised in a wealthy and devoutly Catholic family. Her father, George Skakel, was the founder of the Great Lakes Carbon Corporation, a company that made the Skakels one of the wealthiest families in the United States. Ethel grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, as the middle child in a large family. The Skakels were known for their boisterous and competitive nature, characteristics that would later make Ethel a perfect fit for the Kennedy clan. Ethel first met Robert F. Kennedy in 1945 while she was attending Manhattanville College of the Sacred Heart. She had initially been close to Robert's older brother, John F. Kennedy, with whom she had been friends during her time at school. However, it was Robert who ultimately captured her heart. The couple began dating in 1946, and they married on June 17, 1950, at St. Mary's Catholic Church in Greenwich, Connecticut. Their wedding was a grand affair, attended by the cream of American political and social circles. From the very beginning, Ethel embraced the role of political spouse with enthusiasm, dedicating herself to supporting her husband's career while raising their ever-expanding family. By 1956, with 4 children and another on the way, the Kennedys needed more space. Robert's brother, John F. Kennedy, who was then a U.S. Senator and would later become the 35th President of the United States, sold them Hickory Hill, a sprawling 13-bedroom mansion in McLean, Virginia. Hickory Hill became a central hub of Kennedy family life and a symbol of the romanticized Camelot era that the family came to represent during John F. Kennedy's presidency. The Kennedys' home at Hickory Hill was much more than just a family residence. It was a lively gathering place for intellectuals, politicians, and celebrities. The house often hosted lively dinner parties where the guests could include artists, athletes, executives, and entertainers. Judy Garland, John Lennon, and Harry Belafonte were just a few of the luminaries who graced the halls of Hickory Hill. On one memorable evening, the renowned poet Robert Frost held a poetry contest with the guests. On another occasion, Harry Belafonte taught the guests how to dance the twist. These gatherings were emblematic of the Kennedys' love of culture, their zest for life, and their belief in the power of ideas. Outside of their social circle, the Kennedys were known for their athleticism, often organizing touch football games on the lawn of Hickory Hill. These games were as competitive as they were fun, a reflection of the fiercely competitive nature that ran through the Kennedy family. Ethel, who had been an athlete in her youth, fit right in. Her energy, humor, and devotion to her family made her a beloved figure within the Kennedy clan. Despite her privileged background, Ethel was always attuned to the struggles of the less fortunate. She and Robert shared a deep commitment to social justice, which was evident in their support for the civil rights movement and their advocacy for economic equality. Ethel was often by Robert's side as he campaigned for the presidency in 1968, visiting some of the poorest areas of the country and speaking with people who the political system had left behind. Her compassion and empathy for those in need were qualities that endeared her to many. After Robert's assassination, Ethel faced the daunting task of raising their 11 children alone. Despite the immense grief she felt, she remained a steadfast mother and continued to encourage her children to pursue lives of service. Many of her children went on to have careers in public service, following in the footsteps of their father. Her son, Robert F. Kennedy, Jr., became an environmental attorney and activist, though his controversial stance on vaccines later put him at odds with much of his family. As the years passed, Ethel largely retreated from the public eye, though she continued to advocate for human rights through the Robert F. Kennedy Human Rights Center. She was often seen attending family events and remained close to her children and grandchildren. In her later years, she spent much of her time at the Kennedy family compound in Hyannisport, Massachusetts, where she could be near her extended family. Ethel Kennedy's passing marks the end of a significant chapter in American history. As a widow, mother, and grandmother, she embodied the resilience, strength, and commitment to public service that defined the Kennedy legacy. Her life's work, both in continuing her husband's legacy and her own contributions to human rights, will be remembered as a testament to her unwavering dedication to justice and equality. In a world where public figures often come and go, Ethel Kennedy's life was a reminder of the enduring impact one person can have. Her legacy is not only the political achievements of her family, but also the many lives she touched through her advocacy and her compassionate spirit. She lived through unspeakable tragedy, but continued to fight for what she believed in, offering hope and inspiration to generations of Americans.